Hello, everybody, and welcome to another All Blaze No Glory special. This time, I've got Matt Dible with me, motorsports expert. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. And we're going to be having a chat today about the AFC East for this upcoming NFL season. Matt is a big Buffalo fan. So, Matt, just before we start chatting stuff, how did you become a Buffalo Bills fan?
That's a very good question. Well, obviously, big ice hockey fan, and when I started getting into the NHL, I was a Sabres fan. I won't get into the story about how I became a Sabres fan, but basically, as a Buffalo Sabres fan, when it became time to when I started getting more interested in NFL, you sort of have to pick a team, and I thought, well, Buffalo have a team, so I'll stick with them. And for a good 20 years, it felt like a poor choice.
And now the Bills are starting to do well. Of course, the Sabres are crap.
Yeah.
It's like Buffalo can't have too many nice things, apparently.
No, never. So yeah, unfortunately, but
yeah,
at least one can make the other feel better. It balances out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how the Bison are doing either to see if they're any good, but that's the baseball team.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we thought we'd go through the AFC. We're going to AFC East, and we're hopefully going to get some NFC East. I've got Mike Ricchetti lined up, Berk's dad, who you'll know Dibs. So hopefully he'll come on and do the NFC East with me, and a few others lined up. So yeah, let's have a look. Like, if we look back at last season, obviously, first time anyone apart from the Patriots had won in, I don't know, goodness knows how long, Dibs. What did you make of last season's standings?
Well, obviously, I enjoyed last season quite a lot because the Bills were quite good, which made a change. I mean, I think obviously the AFC East has been dominated by the Patriots, probably the greatest dynasty in the NFL's history, maybe in North American sports history. So it's been a sort of, all fans of all the other teams, Dolphins, Jets, Bills, it's been a rather depressing time watching Tom Brady and the Patriots dominate for so long. Obviously, when Brady left, it felt like an opportunity, and the Bills were the team that stepped in there and really, I guess, dominated the division last year. One of the most exciting teams in the NFL. Really emerged as a Super Bowl contender, which was super exciting for a Bills fan who's, like I said, spent the good part of 20 years with sort of no hope of ever doing well. So it's a really good year from a Bills standpoint.
Yeah. And of course, then last year, as you say, after years of dominance, the Patriots fell off their perch. They didn't fall all the way to the bottom. The Jets were there propping up the table. And what backfired is looked like a tank that turned into one win too many when they upset the Rams, stopping them getting the number one overall pick. What did you make of the other teams in the division? In terms of a Bills fan, did you think any of them were a threat last season?
The Dolphins definitely. I mean, they finished with a winning record, and I think the Bills finished a 5-6 game winning streak. So before that streak, it looked like it was Bills or Dolphins. It looked rather neck and neck, but then in the end, the Bills ran away with it. The Dolphins are an interesting team. Definitely got a strong defense, but obviously the question mark for them next season is Tua, their quarterback, because he had moments, but obviously the coaching staff there didn't feel super confident in him because he would often start games and then they would bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick to try and be the closer and pull out the wins. And obviously he's now gone to Washington, so they don't really have that backup. And obviously over the offseason, there was a lot of talk about Deshaun Watson maybe being a trade target for them, and were they going to stick with him? And obviously they are going to stick with him. So yeah, definitely last season the Dolphins were a threat. I'm not sure about this year. because there are question marks at quarterback. I mean, obviously Tua can be a good player. He's shown flashes of it, but you're just not 100% sure. But they're certainly not a bad team, but there are definitely question marks at quarterback for sure.
Yeah. I mean, how do you see the AFC East going this year? I mean, who I think the Bills are probably the overwhelming favourite from the punditry, but do you feel that confident as a Bills fan?
Yeah. I mean, they've managed to keep most of the team intact. With very few departures, high profile anyway. And then they've managed to sort of, anyone who has left, they managed to sort of replace with players, I think, with maybe equal or slightly better. So, I mean, you can never really. The NFL is a funny one to always predict because you feel like a team's really good, and then they could have a bad start or an injury, and things could go wrong. But I mean, I definitely feel confident that the Bills can be the dominant team in the division again, especially if Josh Allen can continue his MVP-like performances from last year. In terms of a threat, I would say the Patriots look like they could be back on the rise again. They spent a lot of money in the offseason, especially on tight ends. Bringing in Henry Hunter and Jonas Smith. I think it was like almost $80-90 million contracts total on tight ends. Obviously, the question mark for them is quarterback. A bit like the Dolphins. Cam Newton didn't look great last year. I mean, I felt when the games I saw the Patriots play, you could barely throw the ball anywhere down the field. But obviously, they've drafted Mac Jones in the first round. He's apparently looked quite good in the preseason games he's appeared in. So, if one of those two could get hot, they could definitely be a good team. You can never count out a Bill Belichick coach team, and you've got to assume that their defense will still be good. I know as well that because of COVID last year, they had a lot of opt-outs. I think the Patriots had the most players opt out of the season, so they'll probably have a lot of guys back from that as well. So, yeah, I definitely could be Bills and Pats this year. Maybe the Dolphins. I don't really have much hope for the Jets.
Do you think? I mean, the Jets have got Zach Wilson. I don't know how much preseason you've watched, if any. I've seen little snippets of the preseason. Do you think Zach Wilson at least makes the Jets a more exciting prospect and possibly a team that could knock somebody off that no one expects them to?
It's hard to. I can't. I've not seen much preseason. I watched the Bills play Chicago. I've not seen anything of the Jets, to be honest. So it's hard to say. I mean, it's obviously he's a number 2 overall pick. There'll be high expectations, but I mean, there was the same when they had Darnold before. It's almost like a complete reset, and it doesn't really feel like the Jets have moved anywhere further forward. So it's. I mean, you can't really say. I mean, he could be great, but then if the rest of the team isn't around him to support him, then it doesn't really matter. And then obviously they've got a new coach, Robert Saleh, first time as a head coach, defensive coach. So, maybe they'll try and be more of a defensive team and go from there. But it's wait and see. But I like I say, I don't hold out much hope for the Jets this year. I mean, they don't even have much experience at quarterback either. I think the most experienced player the last time he played in the NFL was in 2018. Last football he played was the XFL. So, yeah, there's big question marks there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Jets are still going to be in the bottom looking up, but the middle of the AFC could be quite interesting. I think the Bills will probably do it and get into the playoffs. But speaking of playoffs, how many playoff teams where does the AFC East rank amongst all the divisions in the AFC, and how many playoff teams do you think they could realistically produce?
1 or 2, I would assume. I mean, there are a lot of strong teams in the AFC. So yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously whoever wins the division, that's a given. But I think if the Pats can have a strong season, I mean, the Dolphins almost made it 10-6 last year. If they'd won their last game, they would have made the playoffs. So Yeah, I could definitely see two teams if they get a good run together. But I mean, no more than that.
Right, so you reckon two maximum. Obviously,
Maximum, yeah.
you definitely get one.
Yeah.
Even the NFC East had one last year, and nobody had a winning record. So,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, so I was thinking the next thing to sort of go on to, and certainly what we had discussed was looking at some of the stars of the players, star players in the division, and they obviously from the Bills, I would say possibly at the moment the star player is the Bills quarterback. What do you think? That's probably about right, Josh Allen?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, like I say, he had MVP level performance last year. I think he came second in voting to Aaron Rodgers last year. It was like a huge leap forward for him and the team. Obviously, he was a high draft pick, 7th overall. I think 3-4 years ago now, and he's progressively gotten better. He clearly works very hard. He's clearly a leader. And yeah, last season just phenomenal. He finally had targets that he could rely on. I think there was a narrative in his draft year and then his first couple of years in the league that he wasn't an accurate thrower, and he was more of an athlete than a reliable throwing quarterback. But I think what people fail to notice is in his college days and then early days with the Bills, he didn't have a lot of talent at wide receiver to help him out really. And definitely in his first 2 years, there were a lot of plays he made that were phenomenal if you like watch them every week. But he just guys dropping passes, every second play sort of thing. And now with guys like Diggs and Cole Beasley at the wide receiver positions, super reliable, loads, not a lot of drop balls, and that's helped his game massively. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it was last season was big. This is an even bigger year because obviously the Bills signed him to an enormous contract, $258 million over I think 8 years. Just huge money, and he's got to try and show again this year that he can back that up and still be the man really to lead the Bills to hopefully a Super Bowl.
Yeah. In terms of Cole Beasley, you touched on him. Do you think his attitude to the vaccine is going to make any difference to the Bills locker room, or do you think that they'll get past that pretty easily?
It's hard to say. I mean, Coach McDermott for the Bills is runs, and Brandon Beane, the general manager. They've always preached about culture. From the moment they came into the Bills and took over, they quickly got rid of players they felt weren't fitting in, and even if they were talented players, if they felt they didn't fit the culture of the team and stuff, they would move them on. So they've run a pretty tight ship there. I mean, the Cole Beasley stuff is disappointing from my point of view, but I mean, everyone's got to have their opinions. I just wish he wasn't so vocal about it on Twitter. But I don't know. I feel like the players involved, or at least I like to hope that the players involved can set their differences aside off the field, and when they're on the field, it can still work out fine. But I mean, you have to wait and see. The major disappointment I have is that before camp and stuff, there was a lot of talk that obviously the vaccine, and especially in the States, is kind of a controversial issue. Not really sure why, but it is. And the message from the Bills was that they weren't going to speak about it publicly, and they were going to keep it all in house on who was getting the vaccine and who wasn't, and what their opinions were. And a couple of them have just sort of blown that completely out of the water. So I'd like to think it won't be an issue, but obviously you just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And you mentioned Stefan Diggs, probably the second biggest star, I would say, in the division, possibly at the moment. But who worries you from the other teams in the division? I thought one person I thought I'd bring up particularly that might cause concern to Bills fans is Xavier Howard from the Dolphins, who's normally a red hot cornerback, and now got a lot to prove. Now being given his contract sort of wiggle to sort that situation out. So is that someone that you, as a Bills fan, kind of shudder thinking about playing against, or does it really cause an issue?
To be honest, I don't really worry too much about these things. Just because, I mean, almost every team's got at least one guy that you might want to worry about. But you know, the NFL is like the ultimate team game. So, you know, yeah, they might have one good cornerback, but you know, they can't cover every guy on the field. He can't cover every guy in the field. So, no, I might sound a bit arrogant there, but not too concerned. Yeah. I might have to eat those words if he ends up getting like a bunch of picks and blows the game apart. But we'll see.
And is there anyone stands out on the other rosters for you as just a quality player that you maybe would quite like to have on the Bills?
No, not really. I've never, honestly, not really. To be honest, I quite like this Bills team. And I've never, especially last season, I never watched any other divisional games and thought, well, it'd be good if we had him or not him or anything like that. The guys I'm more interested in are just the two rookie quarterbacks, really. Jones and Wilson. I mean, how much Jones plays, and then how Wilson does as like supposedly the next savior of the Jets. They're the two from other teams in the division that, you know, you really keep an eye on, just because, you know, they both have the potential to be like massive threats, you know, long term if they pan out the way that their teams hope they do.
Cool. Is there anything else on the AFC East that you think we've maybe missed or we should be chatting about?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. I think it's going to be. I'm excited for the season to start. I'm getting a bit bored of preseason games. Quite excited just to get at it. To spend my Sunday evenings watching some NFL football.
Great. And before you go, just thought I'd quickly go around. What's your predictions in, say, the other divisions? Who do you think are going to be the winners of each division?
Oh,
like in the South,
division.
I mean, the South, we've got, you know, Titans, Jaguars, Texans. We could kind of rule them out of being any good this season. And the Colts. So who would be your favourite in that group?
I quite like the Colts if Wentz can refine his form. The Colts could definitely be a really, really good team. The Bills played them in the playoffs first round last year, or I guess this year, last season, and it was a tough game. There, you know, a lot of talent throughout the roster. So yeah, if Wentz can refine his MVP level form from his Eagles days, I could definitely see them win the division. Outside of them, probably the Titans, because they're a pretty rock solid team as well. Yeah.
And then in the AFC West, I presume that you're not going to look past the Chiefs for winning the division. And in the AFC North, now that might be the tightest division to call with the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers. Steelers are always kind of good, even if they look bad at the start of the season. I mean, I'm hoping it's the Browns because I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. But I mean, have you got any preference in that division as to who you think will?
It's hard to call. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, the Steelers are almost always good. I mean, they were the last undefeated team last season until really their season kind of fell apart. You know, so it's they always find a way to be good, even when you think, you know, that, you know, Big Ben's at the end of the road and, you know, they're not quite there anymore. They always seem to find a way to be good. Obviously, Lamar Jackson might have another point to prove. Same with Baker Mayfield. That's a tough call at that division. I'll say the Ravens. I quite like the Ravens.
Yeah, that's normally. I mean, the Browns normally find a way to not quite get there in the division, so
yeah,
that's probably them. And then in the NFC, I mean, the West is probably the toughest one to call in that one. I mean, all four teams legitimately could make playoff runs in that division. There's You got any thoughts on that one? I mean, obviously, I'd quite like the Rams to get there, but
I think the Rams are a good shout. I think getting Stafford in at quarterback could be huge for them. I think Sean McVay probably likes a quarterback like Stafford more than Goff. I mean, they're a team that really goes for it as well. I think with the moves they make. I'll go with them. I'll go with your team, Rambo. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about the Rams is you can write off Thursday draft night just about, because they seem to just trade first round picks forever.
It's all about winning now.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to a division that might make some of our friends upset, depending on how you call it. But we've got the Washington football team, Philly, the Giants, and of course the Dallas Cowboys. Now that could potentially be the worst division in football again. What's your thoughts on who might come out of that?
Oh, it's hard to. I mean, I guess I would say the Cowboys, just because Dak's back. Maybe. I mean, how's his arm? I'm not sure, but I think if Dak's back playing and Zeke can be at his best, yeah, I would say the Cowboys. But I mean, you're right. It was a terrible division last year. I don't think any team got significantly better. So yeah, it might not be a good watch, but we will see.
It might be so bad that it balances out and it's worth watching. NFC South, I think the general consensus will be Tampa Bay will win again. I don't know if you would disagree with that at all.
No, I think you would say Tampa are the favorites. Obviously, Super Bowl champions. You know, Tom Brady. I mean, they didn't win the division last year. I think it was the Saints. The Saints won the division. Yeah. So, but obviously, it's probably between those two. I mean, the question really is who replaces Drew Brees with the Saints and how they perform. And you know, is there any sort of Super Bowl hangover for the Bucks? I mean, obviously, super good team. Tom Brady really pushed that team over the edge to be a Super Bowl contender and got them there. So it's hard to see with his drive and stuff like that. And, you know, the way he led the Patriots as well to be like a dominant team in the AFC. Yeah, it's hard to look past them, but I wouldn't rule out the Saints completely.
Yeah, and then finally the NFC North, you got the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears. I think the Bills tried to destroy the Bears' chances with that hit on Fields in the preseason game already. But who do you think's coming out of that as the top dog?
It's hard to look past the Packers. I mean, you know, Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. They seem to have sorted out their differences that they had this offseason to have another run in it. I mean, I can't see the Vikings doing anything. I mean, who knows what the Lions will do? They're just, you know, perennial losers. And then the Bears, a bit of a transition. I mean, if Field starts hot, I mean, they do have a good defense, so you never know. But I mean, you've got to say the Packers. You can't really say anyone else.
Well, the Bears management seem determined to start Andy Dalton as their quarterback, so we might not see Fields.
No, that's true. That's true.
Anyway, if you have to call it now, I mean, you've said you kind of want the Bills in the Super Bowl. Are you thinking they can do it this year? And who do you think they'll be up against if they do it?
I hate making predictions because, especially for like championship games. But I mean, why not? It's a bit of fun. I see the Bills can definitely go all the way. I mean, you know, they've got to get past the Chiefs and obviously a lot of other good teams in the AFC. But they were one step away last season, so you know, why not learn from the experience? So yeah, definitely can see them in the Super Bowl again. NFC, it's really hard to say. It just feels like there's so many good teams in the NFL right now that are primed to go on runs in both conferences, which makes the NFL so good. I mean, the Packers could be there. You could easily see the Bucks there again. The Rams. I'll say the Rams.
Oh, thank you.
We can have a Super Bowl party and root against each other.
Excellent. Well, I mean, thanks for taking time out to talk about this stuff. I know I seem to get you on these things to talk about anything other than your first sport of ice hockey, which is
I know. I'll talk about any sport, Rambo. You know me.
yeah. So just briefly while you're on, you're our motorsports correspondent. How's the season looking in Formula One at the moment?
Well, the summer break is just finishing, the 3 week break, where I think 2 of those 3 weeks, the teams aren't allowed to do any work. They just have to send all their personnel home to give them a bit of a holiday. Busy season. I think it's 23 races or something they're supposed to do this year, which is just a bit mental. So obviously they put that summer break in just to give everyone a bit of a break. So yeah, back in Belgium this weekend. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton's just taken the lead of the championship after a rather dramatic Hungarian Grand Prix. So it's finally poised. I think it's about 8 points between him and Max Verstappen. So I mean, it's a real back and forth title fight. It's really quite exciting. Not seen something like this for quite a few years, and hopefully it'll continue in that vein. So it should be I think I'm not 100% sure. I think this is the start of a triple header, so it should be 3 races in 3 weeks. So yeah, coming back with a bang.
Yeah.
But it's in Belgium. It's Spa-Francorchamps, one of the classic circuits in Formula One. Always produces some really good racing. Super fast track, really good places for overtaking. Usually produces a pretty good race. So I would recommend watching that one for sure.
Cool. Well, and of course, so Hamilton's kind of benefited from something that if he'd done in the street, he would have got a 1-year ban for. Potentially from driving, but yeah, I mean, because he was miles behind at one point, wasn't he? So,
yeah, I mean, there was obviously a big incident in the British Grand Prix where him and Verstappen were fighting for the lead, and they made contact. Verstappen went out, Lewis went on to win the race. Yeah, he got punished for it in the race. They said he was not wholly to blame, but predominantly to blame. But despite the penalty, I mean, he's so quick. Mercedes are so quick. He could win the race anyway with his main rival out. So that was a huge swing. I mean, it happens in racing. You see it, and you've seen it a lot over the years where title rivals clash, and one side gets upset with the other side, and each sticks in their corner and stuff like that. And there's a lot of hostility on both sides, but I mean, it's calmed down a bit. I mean, the real big one was Hungary. It started off as a wet race, and Lewis Hamilton's teammate Valtteri Bottas just steamed into turn 1 and ended up taking out both Red Bulls. So that created another massive swing, because I think Verstappen got like 2 points in the end, and Hamilton managed to get 2nd place. So that put him back in front of the championship. So yeah, I think Bottas has a 5-place grid drop for this weekend, because it was 100% his fault, and it just so happened to work out perfectly for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. He crashed into a bunch of people, but not on purpose. Just pretty bad driving. So,
yeah. Right, cool. Well, thanks for all that, Matt. And I'm sure we'll have you on for some other random topic down the line.
no worries.
But enjoy the start of the NFL season, and finally getting to see your quarterback in the flesh for the first time this season, because he doesn't play in the preseason.
He is playing tomorrow. He's starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, is he?
Yeah, he's starting. Yeah, he'll probably play like 1 series and that. But
yeah, I would think so. If someone even breathes on him, he'll probably pulled out. But
yeah.
Enjoy that, and thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, no worries.